While Labour officials will meet today to decide whether Jeremy Corbyn should automatically become a candidate in the party's leadership race. The political landscape is continuing to shift, and with me now are Douglas Murray from The Spectator and John Rentoul, Chief Political Commentator for The Independent. Douglas, it's hard keeping up with events at the moment, isn't it?
Yes, it is indeed. Yesterday morning looked like it was going to mean that politics has slowed down to a sort of normal pace in Westminster, and then, of course, Andrea Leadsom had her press conference announced, and everybody knew pretty much immediately what that meant, and then straight away politics returned to the frenetic pace it's been at in recent weeks.
What do you think is going to happen then over the next couple of days? It would appear that Theresa May is already making contact with who she would regard as being her future cabinet.
Yes, indeed. I mean, she is spending the time at the moment putting together that cabinet. It's obviously, as always, going to be a very tricky diplomatic matter. There will be people who feel that they have been promised roles and won't be able to fulfill them because they will have been promised to somebody else. And all of that will be going on behind the scenes. But within some next few days, we should have a very clear idea of what the government is going to look like.
Do you expect prominent roles for those who backed Brexit?
Oh, yes. I think everybody does. There will obviously have to be the appearance of a government of, as it were, if not coalition, then agreement across those two sides. Several people from both Remain and Leave in the Conservative Party have said, and I think said sincerely, that they have to move beyond that. That now, as Theresa May has said, Brexit means Brexit. The UK will be negotiating its way out of the European Union, but there's a lot of other matters of government still to be getting on with as well.
John, do you think Andrea Leadsom will be part of the cabinet?
Yes, although I think she will be offered a fairly junior post and invited to prove herself. I've suggested that she could be given DEFRA, Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, because there are an awful lot of EU directives that have to be disentangled, and she could be told that she's in charge of doing that. I actually disagree with Douglas. I can't think of any of the Brexit supporters who are going to get a senior post in cabinet apart from Chris Grayling, who's been very prominent in running Theresa May's campaign, and I think he will probably get the new Secretary of State job in charge of negotiating the terms of our exit. But apart from him, it's hard to see who else will get a very senior position.
Which is bad news for the likes of Justine Greening, Priti Patel, for example.
Well, no, Justine Greening's a Remainer. Priti Patel, I think, will probably get promoted to the cabinet. But again, she hasn't done enough to secure herself one of the top jobs. I mean, I would have thought the Chancellor would probably be Philip Hammond, who's the current Foreign Secretary. I wouldn't have thought the Home Secretary would be an Exeter. I mean, Boris Johnson and Michael Gove have managed to destroy their reputations somewhat, and will have to work their way. Well, Boris will have to work his way up from a relatively junior post, I think, and I think Michael Gove's punishment for his betrayal of his friend will be to leave him where he is at Justice Secretary.
What about George Osborne? Will he stay on as Chancellor?
Well, no, he won't. I don't think he'll be Chancellor. The question is whether he moves to be Foreign Secretary. But I think a straight swap between George Osborne and Philip Hammond would look a bit too much like just sort of rearranging the same old faces. So it's hard to see what will happen to George Osborne. That'll be one of the most interesting things to watch.
What about Theresa Villers, Northern Ireland Secretary of State?
Well, I mean, this probably won't go down very well in Northern Ireland, but I think there's going to be a huge premium on stability and continuity, and I suspect she might stay where she is.
Is that how you see it, Douglas?
Yes, I do. She's obviously expressed that desire herself. And I think in a post like Northern Ireland, as John said, continuity could be of great importance. Other roles, I say, the main offices of state, I think, will be obviously the ones that everybody is looking for. Just quickly, I mean, on that issue you asked before about George Osborne, it's true that the word is that the Foreign Secretary is the only position he has professed himself willing to take, as it were. It's the only one that wouldn't look like a demotion. But just another point on that, on the levers thing. I think that, watch out. Obviously, none of us are prophets, but watch out for the positions of Michael Gove and Boris Johnson. Seeming to keep them right down would not look magnanimous in victory at this point for Theresa May. Appointing at least one of them to a major role would show that this was the actual debate, the referendum was behind them, and that whatever people's views, the sort of big beasts of the political scene would remain at the top of the table. So we'll see on that. But a cabinet that was very largely made up of, as John said, the sort of old faces, doesn't give off a good vision of a fresh start and a Theresa May's better Britain.
OK, Douglas and John.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.